The 5.3 second half banners have been revealed, and these are some of the hypest banners that I've seen in a very long time, especially considering the 4 stars. So in this video, we're going to talk about the 5 stars, the 4 stars, the weapon banner, and the Chronicled wish to help you decide if they're worth wishing on for you. Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. In case any of you are wondering, Genshin Impact always releases both halves of the Lantern Rite banners all at once, and this will be the time where we also get the Lantern Rite rewards, so that's something to keep in mind. I made a video, by the way, talking about whether the Lantern Rite rewards were greedy, the way that they're doing the 2 new characters and then the rewards in the second half. I'll link it at the end if you want to check it out, so I won't be covering any of that in this video. We're just going to be talking about things as they are and not giving judgment on how things were done. I already gave my judgment in that video. But something to keep in mind is that Lanyan will be a free character. You'll get 1 copy of her if you choose her from the 4-star selector. I also made a video on that, and you can check that out, which 4-star you should select from the selector. But she will be great at C0, Sucrose replacement, as well as a shielder, as well as a bit of a grouper, not crazy grouping, but a little bit. And at C2, she will get a significant shield strength buff that will make her a very, very competent shielder. And overall, I'm just over the moon excited to test her. Her animations look fire. Her design is fire. I love the colors, and I love the I like the I like the Night Soul mechanic and the way it looks when the characters are infused with the Night Soul burst state, but it's also nice to be refreshed and have a character that doesn't have that, that's more, you know, more nostalgic, more old style Genshin. I really like Liyue and Inazuma designs a lot. I like Fontaine designs a lot too. But yeah, so I am very optimistic and very excited for Lanyan. I think she's going to be great, and getting more copies of her. I think her C4 has some buffing, I think, or something like that. So her constellations are very nice, but not required, and especially her good constellations are front loaded there early on. So that is really, really just overall good news for pullers of this banner. Chevreuse being on this banner is also good news because she has, I said I would talk about the 5-star first, but I'm just getting way too excited about the 4-star. So I guess we're doing the 4 stars first, and then we'll talk about the 5-star. Chevreuse is great at C0 and then doesn't have any crazy impactful constellations until Constellation 6, which is annoying, and she is so impactful at Constellation 6. And if you play Arlecchino or Clorinde, Chevreuse is such a good character to get to C6 for them. If you are an Arlecchino or a Clorinde main, this is your time to try and go for C6 Chevreuse with everything you got, if you like to play different teams, because yes, Clorinde does have other good teams. I especially love Aggravate with Shalon and Kirara official, and she has other stuff that's not even people's favorite Clorinde team. Mostly she's used with Nahida Zhongli official, but I digress. Arlecchino has so many teams. I love her Emily team. I think her Emily, Bennett, Shalonen team is my favorite, but her Chevreuse team is a close second. I know Vape is the most popular, but the multi-wave and the freedom not having to use Bennett, because Chevreuse does at least give some attack buff, making you a bit less reliant on Bennett. And the multi-wave, Chevreuse, the quality of life is just so good. And if you happen to get constellations for Arlecchino or Clorinde along the way, they both have amazing C1s and C2s. I can't remember Clorinde C2, but both of them have great early constellations. And both of them can also use Lanyan as like a Sucrose, you know, replacement or Shalonen replacement or whatever. So that's one of the great things about these 2 characters, is they have lots of viable teams, and especially when you have a Chevreuse team available, it frees you up so much for the other side, because Chevreuse teams, they don't take Farina, they don't take Shalonen, they don't take Kazuha. So whatever else you have on your account, it frees it up for the second side, and basically no other teams use them, and they can take Bennett or not, both of these characters. So yeah, overall I really like Chevreuse. And Rosaria, she's there, she's cool. The fact that she is the worst unit on the banner is not bad at all, especially since Arlecchino Melt loves Rosaria. Arlecchino, Seat, Lali, Bennett, Rosaria should be potentially Arlecchino's best team. So yeah, this is a great banner for Arlecchino. And you know, Rosaria, she's super hot. Are you gonna complain when you get Rosaria? even though you can't use her with your Clorinde? No, you're not going to complain. We love us some Rosaria. I definitely don't love her as much as I used to back in the day. Although if you do want to use her as a DPS, Maybe I'll even make a guide for her. I don't know. But if you do want to use her as a DPS, I like using Rosaria, Farina, Bennett, Shengling. Probably you can replace Shengling with Moika. I don't know who's going to be getting the reactions on that one. Will require some testing. But I really, really like that team. It does truckloads of damage. It's the new reverse melt. And I like it a lot. It's not like OP meta or anything, but it's pretty darn good. At least it's good enough. Like if you really want to use Rosaria, that's what I recommend, and it's good enough. So on to the 5 stars. It's actually pretty darn simple. Arlecchino and Clorinde are both awesome DPSs. I think Arlecchino is slightly better. Both of them have like a bit of quality of life issues where most people end up wanting to use both of them with a shielder. But if you want their max potential, you generally don't want to use it with a shielder. That is less of an issue for Arlecchino. It's easier to dodge with Arlecchino. It's very hard to dodge with Clorinde. Clorinde's new best team will be Clorinde, Chevreuse, Moika, and probably Aurora Rororon. But maybe you can get away with using Fischl or Sara. Not sure how that's going to work out with Moika. But that's going to be sort of like almost a dual DPS team. Not quite, because you're going to be using Clorinde for the full duration, and then you're going to get all the front load damage from Moika's burst and maybe 1 or 2 normal hits while you wait for Clorinde to go off cooldown. And it's going to be sick. It won't have a shielder, but I feel like between Moika's nuke, Clorinde's burst nuke, which you can use before or after the skill, depending on if you want to save, not save iframes, but like depending on when you want to use them, depending on what type of enemies, I feel like you're going to be able to get away without using a shielder on that team because it's just going to be so much damage. But you can also just do the traditional Clorinde Overloaded, which just got a buff, which you can use EM Toma as your shielder, and you get tons and tons of shielding. Even with an EM build or a hybrid build, you're going to get tons of shielding from Toma or shielding from Lanyana and Aggravate team. Anyways, all I'm saying is both of them have a bit of issues with interruption resistance. Both of them get solved by their C1, at least mostly solved. Arlecchino overall ends up being a little bit better, but Clorinde is not very far behind, and she's very, very underrated. I would never encourage someone to pull Clorinde for meta. She is not easy enough to play, and she is not so strong that you should get her for meta, unlike Neuvillette, who is easy enough to play that I would recommend. He's basically the only DPS I'd recommend for meta reasons, and Neuvillette, or not Neuvillette, and Moika as well. But neither of these DPSs are strong enough above and over and above other characters. Like the difference in Arlecchino and Clorinde, I often will get faster clears with Arlecchino, but certain AoE situations, Clorinde will outperform her. So overall, you know, Arlecchino is still just a crazy, crazy DPS, but I wouldn't recommend getting either of them for power, but both of them are some of the strongest DPSs and are definitely worth getting if you like their character. Just make sure you do their trial, make sure you enjoy them, make sure you love them. I love them both. They're some of my most used DPSs, just using for fun. I wouldn't recommend Clorinde as an upgrade over Raiden, but I do think she is a better character than Raiden overall, and that's coming from someone who has a C2 Raiden now. I would much rather have a C1 Clorinde for meta reasons than a C2 Raiden, but that being said, Raiden also does have the Hyper Bloom stuff, which I hate and I don't use, so I don't like really mentally consider that value for Raiden. So if you're someone who does value that, then that's where the Raiden Clorinde comparison can skew in Raiden's favor. And Raiden also does have infinite interruption resistance and doesn't need to have a shielder, so it makes her team building potentially less restrictive. So Raiden does have definitely some upsides. International is still very, very strong. Chevreuse is still very, very strong with Raiden. Overall, still a good character, but yeah. So either one of these characters you want to get is totally good. Now, how about the weapon banner? Well, this is a skip. This is a skipping banner. Unless you already have C6 Chevreuse, you need to skip this banner. Yes, Arlecchino's weapon is great for her and is a big increase. Clorinde's weapon is great for her and is a big increase. But unless you have both of these characters, the other weapon is like not that good for you. Both of them are decent stat sticks. Clorinde maybe a bit better of a stat stick. And the 4 stars are just not where it's at. Sacrificial Bow occasionally is here and there. Lion's Roar, a solid free-to-play option that might be Clorinde's best 4-star, but it might be Finale of the Deep. I've kind of seen it go both ways. Lithic Spear, pretty much never going to use that lately. There's not enough leeway characters anymore. Like, and also getting R5 is no. Rain Slasher, okay sometimes on EM, like reaction scaling pyro carries. And Widsith is a good weapon, great weapon. Definitely want to have some Widsith, but definitely don't want to wish on this weapon banner for Widsith. So it's okay to lose to the other banner, to the other 5-star. It's still going to be a stat stick. It's still going to be better than, you know, 4-star weapons, you know. even if your character can't use the passive on the other one. But the 4 stars are just so good that you don't want to miss out. You want to spend your wishes on the banners. And also the constellations for Arlecchino and Clorinde are amazing. If you have a 5-star weapon already, you're getting a way better damage increase from having their C1. And you're also getting more quality of life. Both of them have interruption resistance, maybe not full, but they both have interruption resistance built into their C1s. So I highly recommend going banner over weapon banner. And then once you're done here, this is all right. Finally, the Chronicled Wish. Now, we've already talked a little bit about the Chronicled Wish in the other one because, well, we already knew what was available. But what is worth it on the Chronicled Wish? Well, as I said before, I don't think Baizhu is worth it for meta. I think he's a great comfy pull, and I think you can definitely find ways to use him that are useful, but getting him over Xiaolonen or over Citlali or over other characters, and yeah, he's the most comfy Dendro character for, you know, aggravate teams, for Nilou teams, for whatever. But with Xiaolonen, you can still use Xiaolonen aggravate teams and then use a non-offensive Dendro, and you still have a healer. I think he's good. I just think since Xiaolonen has come out, his value has just gone way down. Still good if you have him. He's still a good unit. I would still put him pretty decently high on the tier list. He's not trash by any means. Just because another character is better doesn't mean he's worse, but it does mean that you should pull the other character that's better. And not him, and noticeably better too. Think about what they offer. He offers Dendro, which is good, but Xiaolonen offers, and he offers the refreshing shield, but Xiaolonen offers resistance shred, big resistance shred, and the Natlan artifact set. If Baizhu had the Natlan artifact set, I'd say go for it, get Baizhu, but he's stuck using Clam. So yeah, Baizhu is all right, fine pull if you want to get him, but not recommended as a meta pull. Shenhe is also never worth pulling right now. Maybe there's a character that can use her in the future. Right now, her most used team is the Chaska team, and she's about to get mega power crept by Citlali on the Chaska team. I'm hoping using them together can work somehow. We'll have to wait and see. But she is the hottest character in the game. I would be pulling Shenhe again. Well, maybe I will pull her again. I don't know. Just so I can use her C1 sometimes and use her weapon properly, because she doesn't have enough energy to use her weapon properly. Oh, her kit makes me so sad. But she is still good with Ayaka, and she is good with Chaska, so you can still get her. Totally fine to get her, just not like worth it from a meta perspective. I hope the rumors are true and Skirk actually is cryo and somehow works with Shenhe. That would just be amazing. But even as like a Cheska, even as a Shenhe simp, I still find it hard to justify using her a lot of the time. Even Ayaka teams don't always want Shenhe. Risley doesn't usually want Shenhe. And usually, even though she is good with Chaska, it's not even Chaska's best team right now. So it's just, Shenhe's in a tough place. It's in a tough place. Keqing, you can pick her for free from the standard banner selector. So obviously don't wish for her here. That's a complete waste of resources. Ganyu, I'm a bit hopeful for Mawika Melt making her teams better. But right, and I don't mind Ganyu's melt teams, especially if you can be a mad lad and go without a shielder for Bennett, Shangling, Xiaolonen or something like that. But I also don't mind the Farina Bennett Shangling team. But overall, I wouldn't recommend Ganyu as a meta pull in any respect. I think she is a lot of work to get generally worse damage, but she's still fine. She can still clear the abyss. And again, same with Shenhe teams and same with and Baizhu, I think, is the better. I think well, I don't know if he's the most recommendable character on this list, Baizhu. But Ganyu is hard to recommend because she's also hard to play. Chi-Chi, again, you can get her for free. Don't get Chi-Chi. Childe, the most, technically still a meta character because International is so good. It's just really tricky to play, and it's a lot easier to use other stuff. But if you love Childe, you know, get him. He still has good teams. Well, a really good team. And then Zhao is an expense. I really would try not to. This is tough. If you really want Zhao, you know, you should get him because he's here. But if Faruzan's not in this banner, and I don't think she will be, it's really tough to recommend getting Zhao. I mean, obviously, if you don't have him, you should probably get him. It's just, you really would like to see Faruzan on this banner. It's sad that they're not, and they might never come back. So I can't really recommend you skipping either. I guess wait for Shen. I guess you'll get your copies of Faruzan from the Shen Yun banner that you need because Zhao is expensive. He needs Farina, Shen Yun, and Faruzan to really pop off. But yeah, getting your copy of Zhao here is fine. The majority, like overall, the moral of the story for all of these characters is, except for the standard banner characters, is get them if you like them. They're pretty good. You can make them work and clear the abyss and do really well with them, but none of them are meta pulls. and obviously the standard ones you just skip. For the weapon banner, the weapon banner is just a massive skip. Just skip, 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 skip. Yes, Jade Cutter is good, but losing to all of the rest of them is beans. Memory of Dust, it has some uses now, but it still sucks. Baiju's weapon, basically just prototype Amber. Zhao's weapon, it's fine, but you can get it any old time from the standard banner by getting unlucky, or you can get the deathmatch, or you can just, lose to some spear at some point, or get Homa on an actually good banner. Shenhe Calamity Queller, I wish it was really good. I wish it gave tons of energy for her. If it gave tons of energy for her, it'd be good. But Shenhe needs so much energy that you almost always want to use Fab. One of the main reasons I want to get her C1, just so I can enjoy using her with her weapon. And then both of the Unforged and the Summit Shaper are generally not good. They have some uses, but they're generally not good. And then Jade Cutter is a good sword, but there's other good swords too. Absolution is actually a pretty comparable stat stick a lot of the time, even though it has a Fontaine exclusive passive. Jade Cutter is like quite a good weapon. It is really good, but the other weapons are just not worth losing to. And now that this is still a fate point with a higher pity, hopefully they lowered the pity for this Chronicled Wish. But regardless, you're still going to lose to one of these weapons if you lose, as opposed to losing to like a good weapon. So it's good to see these weapons here because it means they're not going to show up here. Yay. That's actually a huge win. Like, that's the best news of seeing Baizhu, and what of these characters and Shenhe on these banners, that they're not clogging up a weapon banner, and other weapon banners are going to be better. The final thing is the 4 stars for the Chronicled Wish, and I know we technically don't know them, but we actually kind of do. The previous Chronicled Wish was all Mondstadt characters, and this will definitely be all Liyue characters. So we already know the 4 stars that are going to be available on the Chronicled Wish banner, and overall, these are pretty good, especially if you're a newer player. Like, yeah, there's a bunch of duds, but there's also a bunch of wins. And if you're just building out your roster, this is not bad. However, I do recommend wishing for 5 stars first and 4 stars second. And considering these 4 stars are also great for new players, I would highly advise new players, even if you want those classic standard Liyue 4 stars, as tempting as this might be, it's better to zero in and get a high constellation Chevreuse, a high constellation Lanyan, and this is 2 out of 3, whereas this is what, 1, maybe we could be generous, 1, 2, 3, I don't think I count Beidou, 4, 5, maybe I'll count Beidou, 5 out of 6 out of, and set 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So at best, it's 6 to 5 in terms of good to bad. At worst, it's 4 to 7 in terms of good to bad. So you have a much better ratio of good on this banner, and getting a high constellation Chevreuse and a C2 or C4 Lanyan is going to set you up nicely for some staple support 4 stars, and wishing on these DPS, one of these DPSs is going to set you up nicely. So yeah, skip out on the Chronicled Wish if you can, but if you want to get one of these characters, it is exciting because it means they are all rerunning right now and you can actually get them, because the most important thing is to enjoy the game and get your favorite characters. That is critical. So if one of these characters is your favorites, got to make sure you get them. In terms of constellations, none of them really have that good of constellations, which is very interesting. Childe is mostly bait, although some people find it nice. It is mostly bait. Zhao's are all really bad. His constellations are Shenyun constellations. Ganyu's are okay, but they're not good compared to like new character standards. Shenhe's are okay, but not comparable to new characters constellations, and Baiju's have always been bad. Although his are pretty interesting, because if you get higher constellation, you never have to switch on field to Baizhu, which is something. I mean, it's good, but like, do we really want that out of our character? I don't know. It's good though, don't get me wrong, it's good, but they're not really worth it, so to speak. So only other thing is Hu Tao's skin is going to be paid, and I don't know if I'm gonna get it or not. I'm conflicted. Do you think I should I get it? You guys, what do you think? I don't know. Anyways, let me know your thoughts. Subscribe if this was helpful and you're excited. When you're watching this, I recorded this days ago, and right now I am working so hard testing Moika and Citlali. I'm just locked in my room, just testing like crazy. So hopefully you subscribe and look forward to those videos now, because I am just working like a dog right now. But if you don't want to subscribe, that is totally fine. Just watching the video has been more than enough. Thanks so much. Bye for now.